can't live in the dormitory. I don't think you will be able to survive there, especially when the seniors will get to know that your parents are abroad based. Yoongi bluntly spoke the truth. I was a day scholar in that institution. In spite of being a local resident, I almost could not avoid the bullies. When I'm not scaring you.
The teachers are too educated, too humble. That makes the schooling system too accurate, but you better live in our house. When the 17 years old teenager didn't dare to utter a single word or make an eye contact with her Yungyoppa. She came to Korea to experience the dormitory life, but her plan failed. Lowering her head, she tried to hide her teary eyes.
Look at me. Yoongi roared in a calmed tone as she snorted. Korea is beautiful, but if you believe in the word beauty, you simply can't ignore the flaws. There are a few flaws. I want you to be safe, healthy, both physically and mentally. I'm not here to scare you as your local guardian. Yoongi caressed her hair. Oppa, she snorted. Speak, to clear everything. Yoongi shrugged his shoulders. Will you give me injections if I become sick? When asked, as she knew Yoongi was a professional gynecologist. What? When turned as she heard a husky voice. When he is Dr. Taehyung, he is my colleague and one of your local guardians. His name is also enlisted in your school. Yoongi introduced Taehyung to Van. Van greeted. 안녕하세요, Taehyung oppa. Did he scare you? Did he tell you about the bullies? Taehyung asked her. Van nodded in agreement. Yoongi Hyung, you have unnecessarily scared this little girl. The reality is more scaring. It's scarier than your imagination, Taehyung stated, increasing her level of confusion. Then, how am I going to survive here, alone in this villa? You will go to hospital according to your respective duty hours, she uttered. The cook makes incredibly tasty food. She lives with us. That's it. We do our laundry and cleaning chores all by ourselves. That's it. We actually live a simple life, Yoongi said. Van calculated. It's quite convenient living alone in a house, having normal food, a few chores, and probably I will get enough time to study. Because marks are important. So you, pointing to Yoongi, and Taehyung oppa are going to live under one roof. When asked, and that made Taehyung chuckled. No, when the owner of this property, Mrs. June, lives here. Her son is a freshman in the university, so she has shifted her work base here for a few years, obviously. After introduction and that little chit chat, they and Yoongi left the house for their shift in hospital while Van went to her room. It was neither small nor big, moderate in size. Van was arranging things in her room when she heard the sound of unlocking the door. She paused for a moment to listen the movements in the living area. She was curious about the owner of the property, Mrs. John, who had shifted her work base for her son's studies. Van was already mesmerized by the interior of the house, so she was curious about the lady. She expected echoes of her pointed stilettos in the hallroom, but after a few moments, she felt like she misheard something. She started arranging things in the washroom that was attached to her room. After that, she was done with her luggages. She sighed and opened the door as she needed to go to the kitchen to have a glass of drinking water. She stepped out of the room and noticed the door of the adjacent room was opened, and a coconut headed cute boy wearing a t shirt was probably studying or trying to solve any problem. She didn't utter a single word, or probably didn't dare or intend to disturb the person with her existence. So she tiptoed to the kitchen. She drank water and filled her pet bottle. She was about to step out of the kitchen when she almost collapsed as she was about to have a collision with the coconut headed boy. The boy flinched a bit but didn't react more than that. Leaving the kitchen, Wen went to her room. Wen took a quick shower and laid on the bed. She was feeling tired. Her body was aching. Feeling drowsy, she lied on the bed. Her body ache was so severe that she didn't even have the energy to dry her freshly washed hair. With that dripping wet hair, she lied down on the bed and eventually fallen asleep. Fortunately, the house felt more like home to her, and unfortunately, she had forgotten to latch on the door of her room. The coconut headed boy didn't like peeking into someone else's room, especially when he knew there was a young girl in that room. It was almost night when he saw the lights on in the girl's room. So he knocked on the door, but as it wasn't locked, the door opened. The girl was sleeping peacefully, but the garments of her lower part of the body was covered with blood. The boy also noticed that the bedsheet was stained too. When the information read in the book is introduced to the reality, it becomes very difficult to match the information in the book and the reality. The boy once read a book about the menstrual cycle of girls, but suddenly in his life, when the scene of an unknown girl's menstrual cycle came in front of him, but he could not match the information read in the book with the reality, probably because he was still a freshman. Not knowing exactly what to do, the boy dialed Yungi's number. 여보세요. Yungi received the call. Is everything okay? Young, your sister, her pants and bedsheet is covered with fresh blood. Nervous Jungkook informed Yoongi. Probably her menstrual cycle started. Jungkook, please do a favor. Change her clothes and shift her in my room. Jungkook, what about the blood? Will it be stopped? Has it been stopped? Yoongi, go to my room. There are probably some specimen menstrual pants. Just help her to put that on. Jungkook, but she is a teenager. Yoongi, and you were about to be a trained doctor. I know doctors doesn't do this. Yet it's barely anything to panic for a guy like you who is all set to be a doctor. Jungkook, my classes will be starting from next week, Young. Yoongi, so you will leave her like that because your classes haven't started yet? Jungkook, Young, she is a girl. She is a teenager. What if she misunderstands me? She will never be able to deal with that fact. Yoongi, she is in pain, Cook. Jungkook was still in Van's room. He glanced on her blood-stained pants. After that, his eyes were fixed on her face. She was looking exhausted. He shook her body gently to wake her up. Miss, please wake up. He couldn't but kissed her hair. Was she beautiful? Yes. Was she looking beautiful? Yes, but no. The obvious freckles and blemishes, dark spots, a few pimple marks were obvious. More than that, she wasn't wearing any makeup, so her natural beauty failed to mesmerize him at that point. But a sense of entitlement he felt towards her. No, neither he was a heartthrob in his high school days, nor he was a nerd. He was just an average student who used to be goofy. The beauty standard qualifying girls were his friends, also the girls who didn't push themselves in portraying themselves pretty were also his friends. And it was probably the first time he had been so close to a girl. Miss, wake up. He kept caressing her hair and she finally moved. And the first thing he noticed was pain in her facial expression. Moaning in pain, she almost curled into a ball. Miss, Yoongi Hyung told you to change into fresher clothes and sleep in his room. He kept cursing. Why? She said, enduring the pain. Your clothes are dirty, miss, he politely said. Huh? She nodded and slowly got up from the bed. And first thing she noticed was a big patch of fresh blood stain. Lowering her head, she closed her eyes in embarrassment. Young said there are some kind of thing in his room that can be useful. Jungkook's focus was shifted on her bookshelf and gestured her to leave the room. One stepped out of the room to escape from the embarrassing situation. Feeling the responsibility, Jungkook changed her blood-stained bedsheet. Initiated to soak that into soap water. After that, taking one of the bed sheets from his personal use, he arranged her bed. As Jungkook instructed Van, she put on the brand new period pants. And now it was time to put on fresh clothes. Wrapping her body with a towel, she opened the door and found a pair of clean boxer and t-shirt. She hesitated a little as she never wore anyone's clothes. That moment she was forced to think about that twice. It was more acceptable to her to wear the clothes he gave her than to walk in front of him and go to her room. She put on the clothes and it was time to go back to her room as she needed to clean the dirty clothes. And her room was locked from outside. The key was in her backpack, which was somewhere inside the room. Oh, you have changed. Wen hid her clothes behind as she heard Jungkook's voice. I have changed your bedsheet. I'm sorry I didn't get the scope to inform you. I have put that in the bucket. Give me your clothes. I will put them into the soapy water. He looked at her. She was hesitating. He understood. The bucket is in my washroom. You can put that yourself. And now that was the only choice left to her. Jungkook felt the urge. He didn't want her to rest in Yoongi's room. He wanted her to use his bed, probably to monitor her situation. That's all he planned for an explanation. When just had put the dirty clothes in the detergent water solution when she felt a fresh new wave of cramps. Yeah, it was so strong that she was about to lose her stability, but fortunately, the door frame saved her this time. What happened? He panicked as he found her weak body desperately trying to survive. Let me help you. A sense of entitlement was obvious in his tone, but deep down he felt guilty as he wanted her to rest in his bed, and that happened to her. When neither had any energy left in her body to protest, nor she wanted to rest in Yoongi's room. Jungkook was the only alive person in the home except her.